Welcome to the Pro Design Builder podcast, a show where professionals and entrepreneurs share their stories, strategies, and secrets to building a thriving business and a successful life. I'm Sam, your host, as we dive deep into the world of life experiences and entrepreneurship. Before we get going, if you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button. We're really trying to grow our reach. So if you haven't, hit like and subscribe. I just wanted to thank our sponsors for today. The Pro Design Builder is a coaching and consulting platform for real estate investors who want to build spec homes and multifamily units. The Pro Design Builder, it's not just about building a business, it's about building a vision and a life by design. Also, we have a house flipping 101 boot camp on April 16th and 17th in Fort Lauderdale. If you want to inquire about gaining the skills and knowledge that is necessary to flip houses, especially in a tight market, it'll be the house flipping boot camp. There'll be a link in the description as well, or you could just DM me for information. All right. As you know, foster care is a subject topic that's near and dear to my heart. I've fostered a number of kids. I've adopted 2 kids I'm currently fostering now. The work in foster care is never over. And if you feel led to give to our foster care initiative, we will have a link in the description. Some of the things that we support is providing an additional meal for a foster family. As the primary cook in the house, I know how grateful I am when I don't have to scramble for 6. So we provide additional meals. We provide beds for foster and adoptive parents. Typically, when there's this transition that happens, having a place, a bed, is one of the things that you don't have to worry about. So we provide those things, and we're supportive of a strong family unit. So if the parents could get an additional date night so they could work on their union, that's something that we want to support as well. So. Without further ado, I just wanted to introduce our guest today. Mark is a author and passionate about connecting with people. Had him come on today because we're going to be talking about real estate. We're going to be talking about lending. We're going to be talking about commercial assets and what's changing in the current climate. So just wanted to thank Mark for coming on today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate this. I love how open and transparent you've been as we've started this process. I think it was just maybe a week and a half ago or so we started talking. So it's been great, Sam. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast.
No problem. If you don't mind, just tell people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Mark Urton. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was a pastor for 30 years. I still do work in hospice as a chaplain, and I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm always looking for an interest and how I can monetize that interest. And so I've done everything from coaching to writing, multiple author. And now I found myself in the real estate space, particularly in the funding space, helping people find funding that makes sense for them. My company was founded with my dad. My dad was a veteran of 40 years in the lending space. It's called 5182 Solutions. And we always say we just want to get the right solution for the person in front of us.
No, for sure. That makes a ton of sense. I think this particular podcast is going to be really, really fun because there's so many interests that connect us, whether it's real estate, whether it's lending, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's our faith, right? Which
should be an interesting conversation today.
Great. No, I can't wait. So we typically like to start at the beginning, right? Sure. To understand who you are as a person. So what were you like as a kid? What was your environment like growing up?
I would say I grew up in the very typical in the 70s and 80s home, mom, dad in the house. Dad worked, mom stayed at home. We were allowed to play outside without fear of things. We were allowed to I would say there's to some extent with my brother and I were lucky to be alive because it was like, hey, there's a 100-foot tree. Let's go climb it and see what happens, like that type of thing. So, um, raised in like I would say just a very normal middle class suburban neighborhood here in Ohio. So happy kid, loved to play sports. I was very fortunate. I got to play sports all the way through high school and into college. Had a great experience in college as well. And that's really like, to be honest with you, along the way, the value that I learned was people matter. Okay.
Mhm.
And like how we treat people really matters. Like no matter if the person can do something for you or if the person can do nothing for you, how you treat everyone just matters.
No, for sure. I couldn't agree more than what you describe, and how important that is for me now
Right.
as I grow into a dad, a
Yeah.
leader, a community,
Mhm.
leader as well.
Yeah.
That relationship with people is ultimately the most important thing, because we
Mhm.
are wired, to connect.
Right.
So,
Community.
um,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure, for sure.
Mhm, mhm.
And were there early signs of your path today?
Yeah. So my entire family are entrepreneurs. It was like it's in the blood. It's just
Hmm.
been there since I was a kid. Like my dad started different banks. My grandpa he started his own real estate company. My grandma like really helped him with that. My mom, she always had kind of a business, like try to figure out things to do in the home while she was taking care of us. So like we had this uh it was just lived out in front of me all the time. And it was really like, hey, you're something you're interested in. Well, see if there's an opportunity there. And sometimes, like, there may not be an opportunity to make money, but there may be an opportunity to build good moral character. And
Correct,
so
correct, correct.
that's just as valuable, particularly, I think, nowadays where you just run into some people, you're like, I think, if I smacked you, God would say amen. Like you're just not a good person. I don't know. There's just those people out there, but I think that I was put into both those environments, the one of making
Yeah.
money, but also the one of like, here's how you build good moral character as well.
No, no, for sure. That's
Yeah.
ultimately, very important. And one of
Yeah.
the things, strategies for myself, I didn't. My parents weren't entrepreneurs,
Right.
but I've always been a serial entrepreneur, and
Right.
I've also know that I want to bring my kids along, right? So
Yeah.
when I go into a property and I am discussing details, I'm showing them different things on,
Mhm.
this is what this is, or I'll pop in once in a while into Home Depot and have to grab something, and then I go and tell them, hey, this is what this is. This is what this is. This is what
Smart.
that.
Yeah.
And also, when it comes to reading plans, I'm like, here, this is what this page is, right? So it's that exposure that really kind of helped draw you into entrepreneurship,
It
and I
is.
think that's really important
It
as a
is.
kid
Yeah.
to gain that knowledge, and also just be around people that are having conversations about entrepreneurship. So
Right.
um
I love
who would
that, Sam. I love that you do that for your kids. That is like that's leading your children, and we need more of that. When
No,
I
for
was a
sure.
youth minister for years, and that was like the biggest thing lacking was parental involvement and leadership development. I mean, there's parents who were there; they were watching the games and
Correct.
watching TV with their kids, but leading your kids, that is a big deal. Great job, man.
No, I appreciate you. Yeah,
Yeah,
it definitely, it's part of me, and I
yeah,
definitely take my job very serious
yeah.
in making sure that they got the things that they need,
That's right.
for the next
Right.
season of their life. So, who would you say was the biggest influence in you growing up?
Mm. My mom, for sure. She was an amazing person. We lost her to cancer a few years ago, 2019. And I always tell like so there's a story I always tell with my mom. I remember this like it was yesterday. We were driving home in the back of our station wagon. That's how 80s this conversation is about to get. And we're driving back from school,
Were
and
you
there's this
facing the other way?
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
never
That's
let us
funny.
sit in back. We had like
No,
the
is it?
very back. We weren't allowed to sit there. She's like, "Oh, it's
You
too
weren't allowed to sit
dangerous.
there. Okay, that's
Why do you
funny.
have this thing then? That's the
I
point of
I
them."
know, but
Yeah,
that's
it
funny.
didn't make
Go
any
ahead.
sense.
Sorry.
But anyway, um, so she stopped at a stoplight. We were just sitting there talking, and my mom just turns around and she goes, Mark, your classmate Leslie is going to get nothing for Christmas this year. And I go, what do you mean? And she goes, Mark, this is unacceptable. She goes, all of us here are going to sacrifice to make sure that Leslie gets Thanksgiving and gets Christmas. And that's what we did. Like, she goes, you're going to get everything you want. That's what always happens, but she's going to get nothing. And so my family, and my mom did it for several people. I went to this school that it was a private school, but they allowed a lot of folks from who couldn't afford it to go there. Like, they brought them in on like scholarships, which was the right thing to do. Right. And so she ended up like, having, I guess, this really great Christmas and Thanksgiving. And like, after that was over, like January, we go back to school, and she comes walking down the hallway. She goes, you have no idea, this girl, Leslie, just goes, you have no idea the gift that you gave us. She goes, we were able to have Thanksgiving. We were able to have Christmas. She goes, I opened presents. I haven't opened presents in like a year or two.
Yeah.
And so like that level of like, again, becoming aware that there's more around us than we know is something that she gave to me at a very young age. I was probably in like, I don't know, 5th grade. I mean, every 5th grader wants presents. That's what you want.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear your parents say, you're not going to get as much this year. Like that. But, I still had the Death Star play set and a lightsaber and the Han Solo blaster and all the stuff that you want, but that girl also got the Christmas that she would have never had. So
no, this is relatable for me on the Leslie end for myself. And I'll tell you how it comes full circle. I chatted with you. I told you that, we were from Haiti, and we came, during, with political asylum. So I was on the Leslie end where, Christmases were just another day for us. And, oftentimes, sometimes I would just go outside and watch other people, we got gifts sometimes. So I'm not going to paint that picture. But a lot of times it was actually nothing. And you had to be kind of okay with that.
That's right.
And, now I'm perfectly okay with it. Actually, now if you give me gifts, I get overwhelmed and stuff like that, right? which sounds weird, but it is my reaction, So the kids have such big Christmases now, and thank goodness for organization for kids, which is what we do our fostering through. They bless the kids.
Awesome.
In abundance, but it makes me, uncomfortable when I'm around that level of abundance, But the good thing that has happened is I never had an infinity for stuff, right? I understand that the relationships and the connections is ultimately the most important thing, and very similar to your mom, my parents were actively teaching me to serve others. Right. So I saw them providing gifts for others. I saw them providing food, and even though we didn't really have it like that, that was in their nature. Right. So one of the things that I do as a dad now is around Christmas time, we go serve the homeless, right? That's something that I've been doing for years by myself, and I've incorporated the kids, and they're even asking me, Daddy, when are we going to go serve the homeless again? Right? We had a good time doing that. And I do that because I wanted to bring a level of perspective to the table, very similar to kind of what your parents did, just to show you that, hey, listen, some people have it, different than you. Some people
have it hard.
Yeah, some people have it hard. That's just the reality.
Yeah. So I do hospice work. Like, that's one of the things I figured out, that using the chaplain skills I have is to work within hospice. And we have a lot of folks who are, they don't have families in their lives. And so going in and seeing them. In fact, once I'm done here, I'm heading out to go visit a couple of those. I always call them my friends, because like I love people. I love people anyway, but like just really being able to go out and bless that day, bless that person's day, and finding purpose in what you do, it just makes all the difference. So it just does.
Yeah, you're being that conduit, which is a beautiful thing. Would you say that there was a defining moment in your childhood that shaped you?
I mean, I would say my childhood shaped me, to be
Childhood
honest
shaped
with you.
you.
You know, I think that, you always hear people say, "Oh, there's 3 moments in a person's life," whatever it is. Like, I think there's multiple moments. We just miss most of them because we're not paying attention.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
I
so I
agree.
would say the first one was like when I decided to follow Jesus. That was my first moment of when I decided, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And that moment was started by I was at the end of my driveway, and my mom, my mom went through this phase where she wanted all our toys or stuff to be educational.
Okay.
And so it was like, so she got us like a chemistry kit, which that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
You mix a little salt for a little bit of hydrogen, you got a nice little stink bomb going on. So, but
Yeah,
anyway, that was her
exactly.
fault.
Yeah.
Well, she got me a telescope one year, and I remember like looking up at the moon and thinking, how can people think nobody created this? That it
Mm,
just was an accident.
yeah.
And so that was like a big defining moment for me. So then the lens of faith is how I see life.
Mhm.
And that lens allows each of us to view life in a different way. Like if you were raised like, maybe you're a little bit more on the selfish side and you just like
Yeah.
life is about me. Well,
Correct.
that's your view of everything.
Mhm.
Well, I'm not
Correct.
going to do this because I don't feel good doing it. And
Right.
like faith allows you to broaden it out and say, I don't feel good,
Mhm.
but I know I'm going to grow through it.
Correct.
And so that was a defining moment for me. And then, I mean, I would say I had a lot of friends growing up and a very diverse background of friends, like
Mhm.
all over the spectrum, like rich, poor, white, black, Asian, all of it.
Mhm.
And so just getting to know a lot of different people was just like a really cool thing for me.
Mhm. No, no,
So
no. I agree with you.
yeah,
For me, we grew up. We grew up as Christian, but we were in a very fallen place in a fallen time, right?
yeah,
And for me, it made sense for me when I was 8 to give my life to Christ, just because it was the only source of peace that I
that's right,
had during this
right,
challenging time, right?
right.
And it gave me so much clarity, during a time that
Mhm,
was absolutely nuts.
mhm,
And it consistently provides this lens or this guide for me as I build my character and I continue to draw closer to him, and
right,
what I want for my kids and what I want for my family, what I want to emulate, coming from one end of the spectrum
mhm,
to try to get to the other, has been absolutely, fantastic for me to
yeah,
kind of grow in that relationship. And that's essentially
mhm,
what the scripture is trying to teach you. It's a
yeah,
it's a guide on, how to do life well.
mhm,
So,
right,
thank you for sharing that, because
yeah,
that's just
absolutely,
such a big important piece,
yeah,
of the puzzle.
yeah.
So you say you were a multi-sport athlete. What sports did you play?
I mean, when I was a kid, like everything, I think my mom just wanted to make us tired. That's what I think it
Yeah.
really was. She was
That
like, "You guys are too hyper. Let's make you tired." So,
yeah.
when I played, like mostly been football, I played lacrosse, basketball. I was terrible at basketball. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at it. And then
Mhm.
baseball, and I was like even worse at baseball. It was like it boggled the mind how bad I was at baseball. And then
Yeah.
tennis was another sport I played a lot. So,
Okay.
she made sure we did. I played soccer when I was a kid, and then I got too big and too fat to play soccer, and so I
Hmm.
played football after that. So,
Yeah.
that's just kind of the transition over there. So, and then in college I was able to play football and lacrosse.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Did you play big time or small school? What
No,
was your
small school. So like like my parents one of the things I can say, my parents knew us. Like it wasn't like they had a like I think a lot of parents have like an idea of who their kids are. My parents knew
Mhm.
us. And so they
Yeah.
would say, like, from the time I was young, they're like, you get distracted too easily. I
Mhm.
mean, like, and that's just it. I'd be like, oh, look, this person's playing this. Let's try this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And so my mom knew us. And so she would say, like, I think you need to go to a smaller school.
Mm-hmm.
something like, and it was the middle of nowhere. And so she goes, because you need to focus.
Yeah.
And she was right. I mean, like, I loved my friends there. The school itself, I, I'm a city person. I don't really
Yeah.
like, the middle of nowhere. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it was great to go there because it really did help me focus and get things done properly. It did.
No, it's funny how you say, your parents knew you.
Yeah,
I feel like the same, with my kids. One of the things I told them, I'm saying, hey, listen, um, you guys are all not the same, and
that's
we're
right.
not going to parent you the same because everybody needs
Exactly right.
something very, 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 very different.
Mhm.
And when you brought up that thought, it just reminded me of my son, and I told him his life word is focus,
Yeah.
right? Because he gets distracted, and I gotta constantly tell him, hey, focus, 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 focus,
Get back
because
in focus. Yep, I
yeah,
heard that
exactly,
all the time. Yep.
exactly, to get
Oh
that to
yeah.
get that clarity.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you go to college. What did you study? Did you know what you wanted to do coming out of college, or did you have to figure it out like everybody else?
I mean, that's a great. I think that I knew how I wanted to do something before I knew what I wanted to do, and
Mm-hmm.
so I knew I wanted to like make humanity better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like I knew I wanted to add to um its distinctiveness and
Yeah.
making it grow and become better. So I knew I wanted to do that. I didn't know how to do that at
Mm-hmm.
first. And so a couple of things like I started working with a youth ministry, just I figured, hey, listen, listen, influence the next generation, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then from that, the step, and I was like doing sales, which was fine. And then from that, I started working in youth ministry like full time. And I just learned a ton in doing that. I'm like, here's these little humans right here. And
Yeah. 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 For
you're
sure.
learning a ton from them. Right. And
Yeah.
then
You are.
as I
Mm-hmm.
kept going through that, I kind of, that entrepreneurial spirit that I was really raised in
Yeah.
started to come out in multiple ways, like writing my own Bible studies, and now I write books and newsletters, and developing websites, different things like that. It led into like helping a friend of mine start a business because like I just needed to have something on the side to do,
Yeah.
and so because that focus thing comes back around. And sometimes it's not so much you have to teach a kid how to focus. You need to teach them to focus on what they're doing right now, but there's multiple things they're interested in, which is okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
Mm-hmm.
as long as they know how to focus in that moment on that task, they're good. But if they say, hey, I'm going to do this today and then tomorrow I want to do this, that's great. That's what I
Yeah.
do all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
Exactly.
hard. It's hard
Yeah.
because we're
It
not taught
is.
that way.
No. No.
We're taught one thing, reproduce it for the next 25, 30 years until you die. And then it's just like, now we're like, when I was younger, it was like, focus on this. So like, I'm going to focus on working with kids. I'm going to focus on doing the Bible studies. And then so it just kind of built from there. And then helped a friend of mine start a business. And that's where I started getting into the real estate stuff, which was really only about 5 years ago.
Okay. All right. So,
Yeah.
what business was that? What business was
So
that? Did you?
he was developing a property up in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and he started off wanting to do a capital raise, and capital raises are so risky. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
it was right after COVID, and
Okay.
so COVID
Mm-hmm.
was not a great business. It's becoming a good
Business
business
environment. Yeah. It was. Yeah.
incubator, but
Yeah.
people were scared, and so
Scared. Yeah. It was fear
risk was
in the air.
not there. So
Mm-hmm.
so we started doing, looking for loans, and that's where I started. Like I said, I interviewed like 125 lenders over a 2-year period of time. Like literally I interviewed them. Like I actually have some notes here for me. So
Yeah.
like some of the notes here from these lenders, like right
Yeah.
there, I would like
Mm-hmm.
write down, be like, okay, like, and I'd have like, this guy is not serious. This guy
Mm-hmm.
is a
Yeah.
joke, whatever it was. I
Yeah.
just kept
Yep.
taking
Yep.
notes on all this stuff
Yeah.
and just started, coming down to, like I said, like, my magnificent seven as it are now. There's
Mm-hmm.
only 7 people who are really serious in this space, only 7.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so like I just got to know those guys really well. And so when I go to if somebody comes to a project, like for example, like a multi-use space, like you were talking about earlier, there's one guy I take that to.
Yeah.
Like I've talked to a bunch of other ones in that space, and they're just not serious. I mean,
Yeah, they're not serious. They're not gonna do what
they
they
don't
say they're gonna
understand
do.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they don't
Exactly.
understand it. Like multi-use space, like there's a lot of regulations you have to follow on that, and a lot of things that you have to have contingencies on in that, and like people don't get that.
Hmm.
So,
No,
but this guy does.
no, that makes perfect sense. So,
Mhm.
in your helping of your friend, you had to use your entrepreneurial muscle again, right?
That's
That
right.
you it
I like
was
that.
baked into the foundation.
I like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then it sparked something in you, and it clearly it really sparked something in you because you're in commercial lending, so you definitely gained those muscles in that. How did it end up going for him, by the way?
Not too good.
Not too good. Mhm.
So Michigan stayed on lockdown for almost 2.5 years, and so materials
Oh,
became a really hard thing for him to get. Like I still talk to him. He's a good guy. He's just
hmm,
trying to figure it out now. But it was a tough project. But like I learned a ton from that project, and he
for
did
sure.
too. I was like,
Hmm.
this is what you came out depending on. It didn't work. Okay,
Yeah.
so like maybe let's try this one next time. And I'm sure we'll end up doing
Hmm.
something again. But I stick really in the lending space. I'm not really,
Hmm.
like other people want to go to the development space. I don't have any desire to go there. So
Yeah.
some people are really good at that. It's an
No, for sure.
attention to detail that I just don't
Hmm.
have. So
Yeah, it's a complex assembly of
good word.
professionals, material,
Mhm.
construction. It's not for the faint at heart, and
It's not.
I don't want anybody to ever think that. You're
Mhm.
dealing. It's high stakes. You're dealing with a ton of capital,
Yeah,
a ton of regulations,
a lot of
but
risk.
you can a lot of risk. But you are navigating through
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
uh, with a coach, right?
That's right.
That's why I
Right.
do what I do, right?
Right.
Is
Right.
because I've seen so much of it
Mhm.
from an investor's lens, from a contractor lens, from a developer lens,
Mhm.
and we really try to streamline and coach the process up to alleviate a lot of the challenges, especially if you've never done it, right? So I highly recommend uh anybody that's going to take on this level of challenge that
Mhm.
you look into getting some coaching or some consulting on the steps moving forward so you understand exactly what that picture looks like. So tell me about your first year when you actually jump into business. What did that look like for you?
Ha! Hold on, people. It's gonna be a
Yes.
rough ride. So,
This is entrepreneurship.
yeah, it's well, and then on top of that, I was going through a divorce.
Oh,
So, I that first year was brutal on every level. Um, I did learn some cool things from it, but like,
for
I'm
sure.
a single dad. I have full custody of my kids. I went through. I wouldn't say it was like a hotly contested divorce. It was just like I always tell people, there's no such thing as a good divorce.
No.
There's just a necessary divorce. Sometimes, like
Hmm.
this isn't going to work. However,
Yeah.
whatever choices were made, and so um, it was tough. I mean, it was really tough. We were. I had decided to, do some insurance stuff, and then, a couple other little things in there. And oh my gosh, it was tough. Like,
Hmm.
and it's one of those things where your first year, your mindset has to be, what can I learn, not how much money can I make from it. Like, and if
Correct.
you don't have that mindset, just go work for somebody else. That's okay. Like, I have three
Yes.
kids. My
Yeah.
boys are very much like, we want to go to work, get a paycheck, go home. And that's how
Yeah.
they are. My
Hmm.
daughter's totally different. Like,
Hmm.
she wants to learn how to do her own business, and she wants
Yeah.
to grow her own business. And that's what she's doing. And I was like, she's young. I was like, good, you're 18. You figured out something that it took me till I was in my 40s to figure out.
Yeah.
So she just really has got that lesson. But like, it is tough. That first year is brutal.
Hmm.
Really, the
Yeah.
first 2 years were
Yeah.
pretty brutal. Yeah.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is not the faint of heart. So
Oh, don't blink. So you're in trouble. So yeah, that's right.
so a benefit for me right? There's several benefits, right? Because the way I grew up was so challenging, and now when you step into entrepreneurship and you go through a lot of challenges, right? But they don't seem as big, now when you go through them compared to some of the challenges I seen growing up. So I know everything is a season. It has a start and
It
it
is.
has an end, right?
Mhm.
And you just need to weather the storm,
Mhm.
right? And continue to put one foot in front of the other,
That's
right?
right.
That's what that picture, looks like for you as an entrepreneur, right? It's the same thing in our faith. We're gonna have experienced storms, right? But the peace lies in our relationship with Christ, right?
Yeah. One of
And
my
and that
favorite lessons that the Lord gives us in that is, he talks about, the winds blow, the rain falls, and it rises, like the
Mhm.
waters rise, and so it's like it's not telling you life is easy. Like
No,
there's
it's
no
never.
piece of scripture that tells you life is easy. The people who believe that, I don't.
Mhm.
They must be reading the kindergarten version somewhere I haven't seen yet. But
Exactly.
it's not easy. And like if you life is not easy. Like if you're an entrepreneur, I would say it's a different level of hard than what most people are willing to endure.
Correct.
It's tough. You're right, man. I mean, that's 100% right. I've told multiple people, well, if you don't want to go through these type of things,
Yeah.
don't do it.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're not going to
Mhm.
make it long.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
money runs out.
No, for sure, for sure. And I've been a serial entrepreneur, so
Yeah,
I've
for a
started,
while. That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
so my muscle memory, and I'm continuing to
Mhm.
grow and expand, and even like things like this, like doing the podcast, that's a growth step for me.
Yeah.
Getting into coaching consulting is a
Mhm.
growth step for me. But I know what my experience level is. I know the value I bring to the table. I know the
Mhm.
level of missteps I've made, the lessons learned,
Yeah,
and all of those things are very important. Every time you do a misstep, it's a teaching lesson, right? And that's kind
that's
of what
right.
life has kind of
Mhm.
showed me. So although challenging in the beginning, there are so many lessons that I picked up, and it's not about how life happens to you. It's
Right.
about how you control the thoughts, and what lessons were you supposed to learn when these things happen, right? So
You said it perfect. It's how you
mhm,
control your thoughts.
yeah,
Like
for sure.
if you're one of those people that the wild thoughts just take you away,
Correct.
again, it's not going to work. But if
Mhm.
you're one of those people who can say, "I'm going to be disciplined," we talked about that earlier. Like be
Yep.
disciplined. You has a better chance of making it. That doesn't mean you're going to. There's no guarantee you're going to make it.
There's no guarantee. Yeah.
Okay, and you just have to understand that going into it. And so,
Mhm.
I tell people I have a W-2 job, which is my chaplain stuff, and I do that. That's how I take care of my family now. My kids are a little older, so it's not as much of a financial burden as it was before. But then this other stuff, like you don't know if it's going to materialize under you. You just don't, and you have to be again really okay with that.
Yep. 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 No, for
Yep.
sure. No,
Yep.
absolutely. So you are in the commercial lending space.
Yep.
What can
I
you
am.
tell me about your arena?
uh, it's ever changing. That's what
Yes.
I'm going to tell
Okay.
you. Like, so what was the bullseye yesterday is a totally different target today. And so, um, if you find somebody in the lending space that you trust, stick with that person. Okay. Like, if you don't have somebody, give me a call. I'd be glad to hook you up with a person. Okay. Like, I would love to do that for people. But understand that when you're getting into that space, you have to be ready. So, this is the boring stuff. All
Mhm.
your documents have to be ready. Okay. All of your business plans have to be ready. All of your income needs have to be ready. All of your designs and things, they have to be ready. And if they're not, like right now, just wait. And you might have to wait a month or two before people come back around to that project. Like, I would say right now, the projects that are super, super, super hot, hotels, wedding venues, those are hot right now, and affordable housing. That's hot right now. And it could cool off here anytime. So, and I would say what's not hot, cannabis. No, don't. Um, I would say like a lot of conversions over to like it was a gas station. We want to turn it into a restaurant. Those are very tough. And it's because the regulations are different now. Okay. So you just have to like, again, if you call the right person, if you call the right lender, the right broker, they're going to guide you in that way. Okay. Right now. And then reserve capital. That's big right now. If you don't have reserve capital, just don't.
So walk us through what the underwriting process looks like for you as a lender. If someone is approaching you and they are looking for a loan to take on a project, walk us through your mindset, your thought process, and how you are looking at the project to say if it's a yay or a nay.
Sure, that's a great question. There's 6 things that I'm going to look for on any project. Number 1, do they have a good business plan? Okay, like my least favorite telephone call is the guy goes, "Hey, I have this land. I want to do something with it." Great. Okay, well, you better develop that first. And I mean like a business plan. Experience, it just matters right now. Like if you're like that person who says like, "Hey, this is my first project," you might want to find a partner who has some extended experience in that. When I started into this space, that's why my dad and I started this business together, was because he had 40 years of experience, and he'll just look at a deal and he'll be like, "This isn't going to get anywhere," like right away. I mean, he can just, after 2 or 3 sentences, he can tell you if it's going to go anywhere. The other thing is, like I said, reserve capital. Like if you don't have it right now, and I'm not even talking like, 10, 20% there. If you don't own the property that you're on, like if you're saying, "Hey, we want to use this loan to buy this property," you just made it from like I would say a 50-50 to more like a 90-10, the ability to get the deal done. If you have, the other thing is like, do you have a good solid, like your plans are set, like this is what it's going to be like? No, like a lot of times people get into it, they're like, "Oh, we'll figure it out on the fly." You're not going to get funding anymore. Okay. And then the final thing is your area matters. If you're in the middle of rural North Dakota, probably not going, because it's going to be tough for them to find comps on everything. But like if you're in a city area right now, again, particularly if you're in that affordable housing space, oh my gosh, there is funding like crazy right now for you. So those are the things I look for.
Okay. All right. And then do you guys lend nationwide? Is that? Yes. Okay. All right.
Yep. Like the partners I have, they'll lend anywhere. We're not doing out of country right now. I had a deal in Canada that the reason why it fell through was they're just not going to lend out of the country right now.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you before we got on, you're telling me, "Hey, listen, the lending markets have tightened."
Yeah.
And some of the expectations are going to be changing and are different. How are the lending markets changing in this current environment?
Well, so the first thing is I work with almost all exclusively private lenders. I don't work with banks, and a lot of the reasoning for that is private lending is what's lending right now. Banks are not. If you've had like a 20-year relationship with a bank, you can get a loan. Okay, that's going to happen. If you have not had a relationship with them, or you haven't been doing it very long, banks are not going to lend to you right now. They've got too much on the books that's about to go off. Like people don't listen to this stuff. Like this might be the part of the podcast that people really need to listen to, because this is the boring stuff that matters right now. Right?
It does. It's
right.
It's been slow cooking for a long time.
That's right. Right. So you see all these buildings that are now empty, all these like hotels, and you have like office space. They're empty. Okay. They have like banks have those on their books right now. Well, what's going to happen when those loans get called? They don't have the money anymore. And so those properties are going to be like slashed to sell. Okay.
Mhm.
That's what's going to happen. And so the opportunity is if you have like some reserve capital and a great idea for that space,
Correct.
you're going to probably get funding. And like that
Mhm.
bank may even fund you just to get it off their books. But
Yeah.
in the private lending, and that's again where I sit, they're looking at things very differently. Because remember, private lenders is very simple. They get money from another source, usually from an investor. That
Mhm.
investor is wanting to invest in real estate for the reason really is so they can like protect their investment.
Correct.
And so they're doing construction loans I would say you got most people stand a pretty good chance on a construction loan.
Mhm.
And that's 1 or 2 years, up to 5 years. Like some of them
Yeah.
can get 5 years. So, and those
Mhm.
are really, really good. But like, people have to kind of understand right now we're in the private market. Okay. And so the loans can move a little faster. Like we can get things done a little quicker, but it all depends on you and your preparation and how prepared you are to get documents, to have conversations, to lay out your business plan effectively
Mhm.
to one of these private lenders.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine. He runs a family office, and he
Mhm.
was telling me about this exact thing. He was like, "Hey, listen," I was like, "Hey, how has these conditions, affected your business?" And he was
Mhm.
like, "Honestly, Sam, it's helped my business
Yeah,
because the banks aren't lending,
that's right.
right? And we become that funding source
Mhm.
for massive development projects. So
Mhm.
they've been able to structure deals and then also be um very tight on their lending parameters too,
Mhm.
to make sure that they are getting in and out of the right deal. So you
Yeah,
know
and they pivot fast. I mean, family offices move fast.
yes, they do.
Yeah, I'd love to meet your friend there because, like, maybe I could add an eighth partner because I mean, their family offices are great. If you have a good connection, you've got a great source there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. So tell us a little bit about your business name. This is a
Mhm.
time for you to kind of promote
Sure.
yourself and what you do.
So what separates us from the normal broker space is experience. Most brokers have been in the business for 2 to 3 years, and if you ask them what type of deals they've worked on, they generally have maybe made one deal, and that's it. And they just made a lot of money. So, oh, now I'm a broker, and so there's a difference between somebody like in my case, since 2000 is when I started doing this, and my dad who did it since the 60s. So if that tells you anything, longer than all of us have been alive. So we bring in an experience, and my dad's seen every market that's been available, and he'll just say like, "This is where I think we need to get into now." Okay, this is a good opportunity. This is not a good opportunity. And right now, we're really focused on uh, getting to know our clients very well. Okay, and then pivoting with them and then walking them through the whole process. I I take less money because of I want to have repeat customers. Like so, like your points on these things. Like some people are charging 3 or 4 points. We do one.
Hmm.
And that's a big difference.
Yep.
Okay. Like, and then I don't work on broker chains. So, it's me and maybe one person who brought the deal to me, and that's it. I don't work on
Yep.
these 10-man broker strains that just basically the person's paying almost as
Ad
much in
fees.
fees as their barn. That's terrible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's a big difference with us. Like I said, experience and just our desire is really to make sure the customer gets where they want to get to. Like, the American dream's out there for everybody.
Hmm.
And if you have, again, you have some guts and you have some, you're not risk averse and you're a little bit organized, you have an idea of what you want to do. I
Yeah,
want to help you do it.
yeah.
Okay. Like, I mean, I just want you to be able to do it and help you find the appropriate funding. And so, like I said, I'd rather you build a relationship with me and me with you. And that way you say, "Hey, Mark, I need this now. Can you go maybe find this?" Like, well, it's not maybe my specialty, but I'll try, that
Hmm.
type of thing. That's, I think, the big difference. We're not in it just to make a quick buck and get out.
Yep, yep, yep. No, I think that's really important to know and understand, and obviously people are kind of getting to know who you are as a person, and building that relationship
Uh-oh.
with, you say what? Yeah, I don't think they're worried, right? They might be more worried about me, but that's all good. So, one of the things that we like to ask everyone that comes on is lessons learned. And I explained that to you, that there's lessons in all of the trips and falls and challenges. So, what are your best lessons learned from life and in business?
Gosh. Ask me an easier question next time.
No, no, we want this one. This is the one we want.
um, so there's a quote I heard a long time ago, and it really kind of guides a lot of what I do. And it's healthy people live in truth.
Mm,
And so, all of us have a source of truth. Mine comes from here. Okay.
mhm.
Comes from scripture. And so when you're looking at truth, like I have, like from the beginning of Genesis to the end of Revelation, the sweep of scripture is what I have to live out of, because that's my source of truth.
Yeah,
Don't get away from the core values of who you are.
yeah,
Like everyone says, oh, stretch yourself. That's okay. Okay. It's okay to stretch, like make yourself better. But like if you're stretching your own core values, principles, and beliefs, don't do it.
mhm,
Like because you're gonna get away from who you are.
yeah,
And the times where I did that in my life, I didn't like who I became.
yeah.
So that's been a big one for me. Always leave people better than you found them.
Oh, that's one of mine. Yeah,
Yeah, I just think that I do a little bit in the coaching space, not as much as I used to, and like I'm more looking for a certain mindset.
correct.
Like as a single dad, I'm looking for single dads who like just want to be mentored, like just help down a road.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is because I think the role of dad is very important in a kid's life.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
it's pivotal for a kid. And when you're a single dad, there's a layer of difficulty that you don't know how to handle sometimes.
Correct, correct, correct. I agree.
And so that's another thing. So just leave people better than you found them. And I would say like the third thing would be like, you know, always invest in the best version of yourself, whatever that looks like.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I, I think living a principled, disciplined life is important. Like, I made the choice not to drink. I made the choice not to smoke. I made the choice not to do drugs.
Mhm.
Um, and why did I make those choices? Because I think discipline pays itself off in a whole different way.
Yeah, for sure.
It just did, like you're talking about getting up early and working out. Well,
Mhm.
you're starting to probably feel some benefits from that when you
Yeah,
started.
for sure, for
And
sure, for sure, for sure.
when I was laying in a hospital bed 6 years ago now, with a heart condition, the doctor said you have to lose weight, you have to eat better, and you have to exercise. The only thing he said is I couldn't eat bacon. I broke that one multiple times. But everything else, like, I get up and I work out.
Yeah, exactly.
I make sure I try to eat better.
Yep.
I drink a ton of water,
Mhm.
like all the things that they say to do, um, just to invest in that best version of myself,
Mhm.
because it's important over the long run.
No, for sure. I mean, I connected with everything that you said.
Yeah.
Best version of yourself in 2020. I committed to being a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
What was the other one you shared?
Well, I shared that healthy people live in truth.
Healthy people live in truth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
living in that truth, and
Yep.
sharing that gospel and wearing it
Mhm.
each and every day. And
Mhm.
I found that people gravitate towards it. I think
Yeah.
it's a lost
Mhm.
element
Mhm. Mhm.
in our society, that there's a gap there, and to fill that gap is you got to wear that truth, which comes from the
Yeah.
scripture, right?
Another one you said that is, I say, rigorous self improvement.
Hmm.
Like we tend to be self improvement. Oh, I'm gonna drink more water. I'm improving. Like,
Yep.
but the rigorous part of it is I'm gonna get up and work out. I'm gonna get
Yep.
up and eat better. I'm gonna sleep better. So like there's all these different type of things. Like I mean, honestly, like one of the things I don't think we talk enough about is like staying away from the wrong people.
Correct.
There are people that are completely toxic to who you are. That doesn't mean they're bad people.
Yeah.
It's just your vibe and their vibe do not get along. And so I'm very comfortable walking away from that type of a person.
No, makes sense. And the first thing that pops into my head, and maybe because we were watching the show Love is Blind, right? And this was evident there, is do not be unequally yoked. Right? A yoke is something that's used for cattle to, head in the same direction. And if you are unevenly yoked, guess what? If it's this side's high and then this side's low, guess what? You're going to walk around in a circle. But if you are equally yoked, right, you're going to head in the same direction. So that's what you're describing there. And that's very important. It's important in your relationships with people, your relationships with the spouse, and your relationships with a business partner if you're taking on anything, entrepreneurial. So you need to look at that lens and factor those things in as well, because long term that will affect, your relationship. So
100% it will.
No. Fantastic nuggets. Thank you for coming on today. Thank you for blessing us. Thank you for all of the wisdom that you imparted on us today.
Thank you. I mean, Sam, I'm so appreciative of you in the telephone call we had. And your thing with foster care, that's just, I mean, it's beautiful. Like there's a lot of great kids out there that just want to call somebody mommy and daddy.
No, for sure.
So I'm super blessed by your love for that. And it's not just taking care of the kid, you're teaching them, you're leading a kid. And that's a big difference.
No, for sure.
Keep that up, my friend.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us on the Pro Design Builder. It's not just about building a business. It's about building a vision and a life by design. Have a good day.
Thank you, my friend.